Hi everyone, my name's David and today I'm bringing you my new signature collection which launches soon on Create and Craft. So today I wanted to talk you through what's in the collection and give you a bit of inspiration as to what you can create with this and how much stuff there is and the versatility of it. So we've got stencils, rice papers and mixed media dies in here. So I'm going to get straight in showing you exactly what you're going to get and just how much I've managed to pack into this for you. So here are our 3 stencils. Now these are huge. I absolutely love the size of these. When these first came through, after they'd been designed and they'd come off the laser cutter, I couldn't believe the sheer scale of them. Because usually we work with A4 stencils, so this was a little bit different and I wanted to do something that stood out and was quite unique as a mixed media collection. So they're 12 by 12, so you've got loads of space to work with. So if I put it on some black cardstock for you, you'll be able to see all of the design elements in there. So if I bring this up, you can see this one is called Timber. Now you've got a massive wood grain texture here and also the silver birch trees here as well. So there's so much texture to work with, and of course these are a repeatable pattern. So you can overlay these, keep working with them, create some really nice backgrounds and texture. So you can put your structure paste, all of your inks, your paints, all those different mediums through your stencils. So the next stencil I want to show you is the deer stencil. Now this is a personal favourite of mine just because there's so much design elements on there. Of course you've got your big stag and then you've got the one at the side as well which has got all of the scene built into it. And when we created these stencils we had a look and thought what else can we cram in, and we found that we could add sentiments and words in here for you to be able to stencil through, and of course cut out if you're a paper crafter to add to cards. But there's also the trees on here, you've got all of the crackle effects going in, there's so many different elements in there to work with, and on a 12 by 12 scale it's huge. So of course using this across all mixed media and paper crafting, there's a lot of versatility with it. And then the last stencil, which is 12 by 12 again, is just beautiful. You've got so much texture in here. Of course you've got the bear in the bottom corner with the scene built in again like the stag, and then you've got all these logs here which would look lovely as a surface pattern, and you've got your trees at the top, and then you've got a little sprig here at the side. So they're the stencils, and they really are just a dream to work with because you've just got so much space in there, so you can overlay them. And I've been doing some projects along the way with this which I can't wait to share with you because I've been stenciling, cutting out the stencils, which is a bit different for me, but it's something that I've thoroughly enjoyed working with. It's been such a privilege to be able to bring this to you. And here are the rice papers. So in the rice paper pack there's 4 designs and you will get 2 of each, so you get 8 rice papers overall. And you can see here on the first design, what I really wanted to do was be able to create a scene for you. So if I flip this over so we get a white background, it really pops the colour of the papers. So you can see here we've got a scene that you can cut into or use as an overall background with so many different elements in there. You've got your logs going through, a scene in the foreground coming up with the trees and the water, which is just a lovely scene overall. And we've got some landscape ones in here as well. And that's one thing that was really thought about in the design process of this, is that I want you to be able to work portrait and landscape on your projects, and being able to bring that to you really allows you to be much more creative in your designs. And another landscape one here. Now this I love working with because you've got all of the leaves that you can cut out, you've got these log elements, and again this is more of a wintry frost scene and it's really appealing for all seasons, but of course Christmas time as well. This would make lovely cards and gifts. And the final one here, which has got really warm tones running through it but a little bit autumnal as well, it could be spring, but you've got the stag here with the little baby one, and of course elements that you can cut out, but it's such a lovely background piece as well. So those are the rice papers and they're just beautiful to work with, and they really are just exquisite designs. And here are the 2 mixed media dies in the collection. Now when these came through I couldn't believe, just like the stencils, the size of them. They're huge. And just to show you exactly how big they are, I've got a ruler here and you can see from one end to the other that is 25 centimeters. So that is massive, and this is a mixed media die, so of course cutting this with construction board, with fabric, grey board, leather, all those different materials that you can pop through your mixed media dies, you can create with a stag die on this scale, which is amazing. And of course I wanted a little element to go with this as well, which will add to any depth and dimension to your projects. And it's just a little sprig here of berries on a little twig, which I just thought was a really nice touch to add into there. And I've found that when I've been making cards and little canvases, it's just a really nice element to be able to add in as a finishing touch. So it's two dies that go hand in hand, and they just look beautiful when placed together. So they are the main features of this signature collection that you'll be receiving. So I hope you love it just as much as I have, and it is just so lovely to work with. And of course it's home decor inspired. So this would be really nice to make home furnishings with, but of course with all crafting you can take them in any direction that you wish. So I'm going to get on and actually show you that you can make something with it and show you what you can create. So I've done something a little bit more mixed media paper craft for you, so I hope you enjoy it, and I can't wait to see how it turns out. So I'll pop my dies to one side, and I'm going to start off actually with one of my stencils. And the stencil that I'm going to use is the timber. Now I'm going to be using the actual wood grain effect here that you can see. And of course it is repeatable as well, so you can keep going through your stencils, getting a really big surface pattern. So even though it is 12 by 12, just think you could keep this going along, making maybe a lampshade or a table runner, or even creating a faux wood effect on a table that may be plastic. You can create those effects with this stencil, which is just amazing. So I'm taking some cardstock, and I've picked just a beige plain colour because I want something to stand out against the ink I'm going to use. And for this one I'm not using paint, I'm just using some ink, and I'm going to take my stencil straight over. And because I'm not using a wet medium, I'm not going to tack my stencil down, I'm just going to go straight in and start brushing through. So I'm going up and down over the stencil. Now this is just going to give me a really nice light faded effect in the background that's going to look really nice. It's not going to be too bold, but it's going to be a nod to the collection, what's inspired by it, which is all natural materials, earthy tones, and things that are all based around woodland settings. And when this collection was thought about, when I first really took those first steps into creating it, I really wanted it to be something that I could relate to. So I spend most of my time outside in the garden, to be honest, and I found that working with natural materials is something that I relate to quite easily, and I feel quite at home with it. So when I take to materials like this with the wood grain and the timber effect, it just feels like I'm working with those textures I'm usually surrounded by. So for me, it really is a bit of escapism and a bit of a dream to work with. So I hope a lot of you can relate to that as well, because I think we all have those little moments in craft where we can relate to it, or we tailor it to our personality. So if I take that away, you can see there, I'm just left with a really nice, and it's subtle, and of course you could go as far as you want to do with this if you wanted to do it in like a black colour or anything deeper, but that's just a really nice pale wood effect. So if I take my stencil again and just move it slightly further up, so then I can get the knot that's here, but up there. So I'm going to take a little bit more of my distressing ink. And a lot of you may use your stencils with inks instead of pastes and paints, which is brilliant to do, because of course with your inks they take so well to a stencil. And if maybe you're not used to mixed media, it doesn't necessarily mean you can't involve stencils in your crafting. You can use whatever mediums you want through it, or maybe you prefer to use spray inks and things like that. Of course they can go through your stencils as well. So there really is a wide variety of product that you can actually use with these. So you can see there we've got a really nice wood grain texture effect going through. So that is going to be the base of my card that I'm going to create. So I'm just going to put my stencil to one side, and I'll be able to get a baby wipe just to take that ink off there, so I know I'm not going to get any residue left over on my stencil. And I've got an 8x8 here. This is just an 8x8 card blank, and I'm going to take some cardstock, and I've already got some tape on the back of here, which I'm just going to take off and actually mount this to create a matte layer onto the back of my card. And with this project I have actually been doing a lot of three-dimensional pieces, which I can't wait to show you, but it's been something a little bit different to work with really, and it's been something that's really quite inspiring, because it's given me a spark for a lot more ideas, ways that I can elaborate on this. So I'm going to take a little bit of wet glue for the back of this one actually. And of course, when you're doing your matte layers for your cards, use wet glue, tape, hot glue, whatever works best for you. But when I've started to add a few of those layers, sometimes I can struggle a little bit at lining them up. So I tend to use the wet glue, as it gives me a little bit of flexibility to be able to move it before I've adhered it to the actual background. And of course, I've done a piece of dark coloured cardstock, a very dark chocolate brown behind that. and that's just giving me a separation between those two brown tones on the back of my card there. So when I layer it up, I'm starting to get a really nice, coherent, but three-dimensional look with my cardstock. So I'm just putting a fine bead of glue. This is the Cadence Magic Fix glue I'm using here. So on the Create and Craft website, you'll find that on there. And of course, many types of wet glue will work perfectly for this job. And I'm going to take it straight down onto the card blank, like this. And that should grab within just a couple of seconds, and then within a few minutes that will be almost dry, so it'll be perfect and ready to go. So my next step for my card is, if I take these here, you'll see that I've got some really realistic looking tree trunks. Now, I've taken these from my rice paper, and what I actually did is, if I show you the rice paper itself, you can see it's this element down here. And using my fabric decoupage glue, all I've done is then mounted this onto I think it was 240 cardstock, and then just cut them out with scissors. So it's given me what looks like really realistic branches, which I just think looks so brilliant against a background. They really pop and stand out. And I've used a bit of foam tape on the back of these to give me a little bit of dimension. So if I take these just to the edges here, I'm just making sure that I've got my card the right way around. Here we are. So I'm going to lay these down here, and these are just going to form a frame into our card. And card making is quite new to me, as I may have mentioned before, so this is really exciting, and it's going to be really exciting to actually see what you create with this as well. So then I'm just going to go up to the edges and trim these bits off, because I can see they don't need to be any longer. There we are, and I'm just going to straighten this one up here. So you can see I've already started to get a little bit of depth and dimension to my card. You can see I've got 2 layers of foam tape there, each at 2 mils. So I've got 4 mils of depth there coming away from my card. And the next step I'm going to do is, I've got a circle here which I have die cut just from my Essential circles. You can take whichever shape you want to if you're inspired by this project, to create really whatever sort of aperture you'd like. And I'm going to pop this stencil sort of coming into the circle there, so I think he'll look really nice. So for this one, I am going to take a bit of stencil spray just on the back of my stencil. So I'm just going to spray it off the craft surface that I'm working on, just so I don't get it on any of my other products. So here, I've laid it just over the centre, and I'm going to go straight in with my paint and start to work into that stencil. So I've taken here on a plate some of the acrylics that I've bundled for you in this collection, and this is my Linden green paint. And it's such a lovely paint to work with, because it matches really well with grey tones, any other sort of colour schemes that you may have got, but it works really well with earthy sort of green tones as well. It's a very versatile colour. So across this collection you'll find it works so well. So I'm going to start to just go straight into the stencil. And I'm not stippling this, I'm actually using like a blending circular motion. This way I know I'm getting full coverage all the way over my stencil. And you can see here, I've actually flipped the stencil the other way around, so you see the words here are backwards. I wanted him so he's coming this way, so as I open my card like that, it looks like he's gone over the edge that way. So I flipped it to one side. And of course, with certain stencils, when you have repeat patterns like the wood effect, you can flip those over so that you get different effects each time. So I've gone all the way over with him just like that. So take him off. There we are. And then all I'm going to do is take a bit of paint off my stipple brush here. And then I want to just catch the edges of the circle. So I'm just going to go into the edges like this. And this basically is just giving us a bit of a rustic, rough edge. And I'm being careful not to actually disturb any of the stencil pattern that I have just done. Usually I would give this a quick blast with the hairdryer, but it does dry really quickly, the hybrid acrylics. So I'm not too worried about anything bleeding or scuffing or going out of place. So this is just giving us a really nice rough edge. So if I hold that up there, you'll be able to see, hopefully. I've just gone around the edge, and it'll really stand out when I actually put it against the back mat I'm going to be placing it on the card. So I'll pop that to one side, put my stipple brush in some water just so it doesn't set, and go back to my card here. And the next step I'm going to take is, I've got this gold mirror card here. I'm going to place this in the centre. Again, I've used just some foam tape for this. If I just take the back of this off. And of course I'm using a lot of foam tape on this project, but if you wanted to, you could use card cut into to make little stilts or little stands for this, or you could even use silicone gel, hot glue, anything like that. It depends really what you're familiar with working with or what you're most confident to work with. And to be honest, I keep trying new things and seeing what works best, so it's a little bit of an experimental process, but it makes it a little bit more exciting. So if I lay this down just in the middle there, that is actually going to be the mat for the circle that I've just created. So if I then take our stag stencil here, and I'm going to pop a little bit of wet glue just around the back of it, run to the bottom of the bottle, there we are, and just a fine bead around the edge of the stencil there, and I might just pop a little bit in the middle just for a bit of security. And bend it down so I know that my stencil is not going to ping up as it's drying. If you give it a little bit of curve, I know it's going to definitely want to push against the area I'm placing it onto. Then I'm just going to match that up. There we are, and leave it to dry. So I'll pop that to a side just for a second, but you can already see the dimension and 3D elements are really starting to come together with this. And I want to create a little wreath effect around that circle that I've just created. So on the rice papers that we've got, I've actually got these leaves that I mentioned earlier. And with these, I absolutely love cutting them out. For some people, they much prefer to die cut, but I've given you the choice in this to be able to die cut or fussy cut. So with the leaves, what I've been doing is actually mounting them with a bit of the decoupage glue onto a paper background. And they are really easy to cut out. They're not fiddly at all. And what I find when cutting leaves out is because they are a natural product, you don't have to be too precious. So I usually just zigzag like this, moving my paper all the way around, and it'll give you a really nice natural edge to what you're working with. Just like that. And then taking a pokey tool, which I have got just here, underneath, I start to add a little bit of shape and dimension. So I've got a few more that I've started to layer up. So I'll just take these. And all I'm using is the pokey tool and the finger, changing size each time. And this just gives a bit of shape. Of course, you could use a ball tool for this, or any way you prefer to shape them. It's entirely up to you, but mounting the rice paper onto cardstock does give you that durable weight, meaning that you can mould these, and they're quite versatile, and they really will take to any shape that you desire to put them in, really. So giving them that crinkled, dried leaf effect, because of course these are those autumnal leaves that you brush through on a walk in the autumn and you're kicking through the leaves. These are what we have created for you here. If I take this card again, you can see here that what I have actually created is the circle for the leaves to now go around. So I'm going to just lay them out just before I glue them down. Just really quickly on here, I'll put my big one in the center. It's like a maple leaf, and then go around with them just like this. And I'm just really creating the design off the top of my head in a way that I think will look quite nice. So I'm going to take a little bit of hot glue for this, just on the back, like this, and then it's really easy to just put them in place. And of course, there's so many different elements on these rice papers that you could use for this. It doesn't necessarily have to be the leaves, but I think the leaves just look so stunning with that burnt orange effect. They really do remind me of those autumnal walks that used to go on holidays. And I've sort of tailored this collection to those sort of memories. So it's really nice to see it all tie together and become a whole finished item like this. So just a few more. I always find it's nice to have things slightly off balanced as well. So you can see I've used about 4 here and I used around 3 leaves for the top. That way it just gives that aesthetically pleasing look to the eye when viewed. So I'm going to take the last one. And the Kit and Caboodle glue gun, which I'm using, it makes this project so easy to actually create because I have got the easy ability of bringing my glue gun to the project, and then of course it sets super quick. So hot glue is my preferred choice of medium for that. And then the dies, I'm going to add some dies into this. So you can see there, that is our card starting to come together. And it almost looks like a canvas piece or a box frame, which I think is really nice about this because you can make cards to give as gifts, not just a card itself. And that way it can actually be displayed forever because so much work and effort has actually gone into it. And these here are the sprig berry dies I mentioned earlier. And what I've been doing with this is actually just taking a brush with a little bit of red paint. And we've got a crimson red in the collection. So I've been taking a bit of that red paint and just going over some of the elements here like this and just colouring in the ends. So it's so easy to do, but instantly it gives you a really nice effect. And I've been cutting these on different coloured cardstock, having a play around with what I can actually cut them with, which really is so much. Obviously, you can try leather with this, you can try balsa wood, you can try craft metal as well, so like really thin pliable metal, and also all different weights of paper as well will go through these dies. So working with mixed media, it is a preferable choice of die for me to work with, which is why I thought these were so key to have in this collection. So you can see there so easily, you can create a really realistic looking element to add into all your projects. So I've got a few here, and what I did to finish these is I had a little bit of gold wax onto them, which just really ties it in. You can see the shimmer there as I tilt it, the shimmer from the gold wax, and that will really tie in with the hoop of the gold rim that we've got going around the centre. So if I take these, and what I'm going to do is snip the bottom off. So this branch here is being designed so that you can actually take that. If I pop it there, you can see it. This little end of the branch has actually been designed so you can use this to weave into maybe a wreath or some sort of other element that you're making. But I'm going to snip this off for now because I don't actually need it in this project. And I'm just going to add a tiny bit of hot glue to the bottom of it and take it underneath, feed it under those elements that I've already been sticking down. And this is just giving us a really nice finishing touch of that sort of wilderness effect of shrubbery and bits growing through in the wild. And I'm going to take a little bit off that one as well. I think I'm going to marry it up in that corner up here. So you'll find as you're working with projects like this, it's really easy to find the balance. When I first looked at cards, which when I first thought about doing the signature is, do I want to make cards? Was that I used to struggle with thinking how I'd get the balance right, but it really is so easy. And when you start to place things down and layer it up, it really just forms in front of you. So it's a fun project to work with. I'm going to snip into these dies to actually reduce the size of them and make them even smaller. And this way I can start to actually feed them in inside and have a really nice little play about with them and sort of see where I like them and settle them in different areas. So I'm going to snip this one even shorter. Tiny bit of hot glue on the back of there. And just start to put the sprigs inside like this. So I'm going to pop just a couple more down in the corner. I'll have one down here. There we go. So it's just all about adding layers, adding texture. And with this collection really, it's so versatile because there's not really much that you can't do with it. Of course, you've got all those elements from different things, whether you're a paper crafter or mixed media, it's got all of those elements in there for you. So really it appeals to a lot of people, and it's great if you just wanted to make something nice for your home, if you want a nice finishing touch for your interiors, it really is perfect for something like that. So there you can see, that is something I've made really quickly, but it just hopefully gives you a little bit of inspiration as to what you can create with this collection. So in there I've used the stencils, the rice papers and the dies, and of course some of the paints that will be coming in through in that collection as well. So it's really easy to actually put them all together and hopefully you'll be able to see the links between all the stencils on all of those different elements and really how they cross over and can create one whole really nice beautiful project. So I really hope you've enjoyed watching this, and I can't wait for you to see the collection. It really has been such a privilege to be able to have my own signature collection and allow you to be able to share it with you and for you to be able to work with it. So thank you ever so much for watching. I'll see you later. Thank you.